Hey, second graders, we are still talking about crayons today in science, and we have a little bit of some reading to do, and we also have some fun videos to watch that go along with today's lessons. So you guys should be on lesson 4, pages 63 through 65 today. We're going to start on page 63, and we are actually going to be reading this passage that explains all about making crayons, how they're made. We're going to discuss it a little bit, and then we're going to watch a video about how crayons are made and kind of compare the two, what we read to what we watch. Okay? So Ms. Marquardt, if you wouldn't mind reading that page for us.
You bet. The title is called Making Crayons. I love it when a new school year starts. My favorite part is when I get to open my new box of crayons. All the colors are so pretty. Did you know that 3 billion crayons are made each year?
Wow.
I read my part. Crayons are made in a factory. The crayons start as clear wax. The wax is melted using heat. This turns solid wax into liquid wax. Then color is added to the wax. My favorite is blue. The liquid wax is poured into molds. The mold gives the crayon its shape. It is also where they get their nice pointy ends. The wax starts to cool. The liquid wax turns into solid as the temperature of the wax goes from hot to cool. The wax doesn't have to get really cold like water does to turn into a solid. It just needs to cool to 37 degrees Celsius or 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit. Next, the molds are removed. After that, the crayons get wrapped in their famous paper labels.
There are over 100 different colors of crayons made in the factory. My dad and I made our own color by melting a blue crayon and a yellow crayon together. Guess what? It turned into green wax, like we did when we mixed our colors.
I knew it.
We let the wax cool. Then I used it to draw a pretty picture of a rainbow. I found out that I could turn wax into a liquid and a solid. I could do it over and over again. The bad news was I needed a blue crayon. I wanted to color the sky above my park. There was no way to reverse the color changes after I mixed them. I had to buy a new box of crayons so I could finish my picture. Okay, you might not have realized that, but there was a lot of information in that last paragraph here. So let's break it down. First of all, Ms. Marquardt, I'm going to ask you a question.
Yep.
What is a crayon made out of?
It is made out of wax.
It's made out of wax. And so because we have practiced this in our last couple of lessons, we know with some of the properties of wax, what is something we can do to wax? What 2 forms or states of matter can it be in?
Well, we know that it can be a solid, like how the crayons first come, but when we heated it on the stove in the kitchen, we also found out that it could be a liquid.
Okay, so you kind of answered my next question.
Sorry.
In order to make a crayon into a liquid, what do we need to apply to that crayon?
Some type of heat.
Heat, right? And if we want to turn it back into a solid, what do we need to apply to it?
Well, it needs to be cooled.
Cool down to be a solid. Right. Okay, so that change is reversible. So some changes are reversible and some aren't, even to the one specific material, wax.
Yep.
We can reverse the state of matter. We can make it liquid, solid, as many times as we want.
Yep.
But, like stated in this reading, we can't change the color back and forth, right? If we mix a blue and a yellow crayon together, what does it turn into?
Green.
And can we ever get that blue and yellow out of the green crayon again?
I don't think so.
What was her solution to it?
Well, she had to buy a new box of crayons.
So, some changes are reversible, you can undo them, and some are irreversible, like changing the color of something. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, it was.
So, I think next what we're going to do is we're going to show you guys a cool video that actually reveals the process of making a crayon, how are they made in a factory, and you're going to learn a little bit more than you learned when somebody did what our experiment was of kind of at-home melting crayons. This is the real deal we're going to show you right now.
It's pretty cool.
But every single one starts off as a pile of tiny white flakes. the wrong shape, and the wrong color. So how do you get from this to all this? Let's visit a crayon factory and find out. The main ingredient of all crayons is a material called paraffin wax. The wax arrives at the factory as small, hard flakes, which are heated until they melt. When the wax melts, it turns into a clear liquid. It looks like water, but don't touch because it's still really hot. Next, a color is mixed into the melted wax. Today, we're making green crayons. Now the green wax can be poured into a mold, which will give the crayons their shape. As the wax cools, it hardens back into a solid. And there you have it, lots of perfect green crayons. All that's left to do is add labels and pack them into boxes. Now they're ready to be used for lots of colorful drawings.
Wow, deja vu. I feel like I've seen this video before. Do you feel like you've seen it before?
I feel like I've seen it a few times.
I know, and every time I see it, I love it. It's
I
a
love
fun
it.
video, right?
Yeah.
So let's take a look. We're gonna flip the page. What page is this that we're on
This
now?
is 65.
65. It's the last page of today's lesson, but we have a few more things to do. Now that you have listened to the story and read the story yourself along with us about making crayons, and you've actually watched the video about how they're made in a factory, what we want you guys to do is to draw a model of the process of making crayons. And so when I think about the factory video that we just watched, how does the crayon start? They called it like
Paraffin
wax.
Like little tiny pieces of clear wax.
Clear wax. So
Cool.
a bunch of little clear waxy beads looking things. So maybe you can draw the wax, and then maybe like when you have a drawing, you'll draw an arrow to like the next step. Ooh, I like your paraffin wax.
Thank you.
The clear paraffin wax.
I have never drawn paraffin wax before.
And then maybe an arrow to, what did they do? They applied heat to it. So they heated that wax to melt it. So it's all one like liquidy wax. Ooh, you're really good at drawing.
Thanks. That's fire.
It's not leaves, it's fire.
Yeah, fire.
So maybe we melt it, and then we have like a tub of melted wax, okay, because we applied heat to it. Awesome. I love your drawings. It looks good. That's a good bowl.
Thank you.
Okay. And then that melted wax gets poured into molds, all those little circular molds where they get their shape. They become like cylinders with a point at the end. Awesome. Nice mold you got there.
Thanks.
Yeah.
They're not the same.
And then they're cooled.
Size.
So if you wanted to add some more steps to this, some more arrows, and draw, maybe they get pushed into a refrigerator or a freezer or something, show them cooling off. You could even go as far as putting a label on it if you wanted to add that to your process of making crayons. But what we really want you to get out of this is that the wax needs to be heated in order to melt. It needs to be cooled in order to harden back into a crayon, and that those are reversible processes. Now we're gonna watch another video called Ice Cubes, what happens next. So we're gonna start the video, we're gonna watch a little bit of the video, and so this part right here that says, what do you think will happen? We're gonna pause the video, and you'll be able to answer that question once you see the video and you understand. And we'll say, we want you to fill out that first section of the reflect part. And this is what we're talking about. And then once we finish the video, you will see if your prediction was correct. So you can't write anything here yet because we haven't watched the video. So Ms. Marquardt's gonna play the video and we'll tell you when to write in that first box. All right, so it looks like they took some water, they put that water into some ice cube trays, and then what did they do with those trays?
Then they took that tray back out of the freezer after it was frozen and they put the ice cubes into a bowl.
Yes. So they froze the water first, so they turned into ice, then they took it out, put it into a bowl. What happens next? What do you think will happen now that they've taken those ice cubes and put them into a bowl at what, room temperature? Okay, what do you guys think happened? Write it down, and then we'll see if your prediction was correct. So take a second to write it down.
Might turn into a unicorn. Should I
Oh,
write?
it'll probably turn into a donut.
Oh, I love donuts.
A donut shaped like a unicorn? Yeah?
Maybe we should find out.
Yeah, let's find out. But you guys write your prediction down.
What happens next? The warm temperature in the room causes the solid ice to melt back into liquid water.
Room temperature, solid ice melts into liquid water. So, did you guys guess that it would melt again back into water? If you guessed that it was going to turn into a donut, you're probably wrong. Or a
I'm
unicorn.
so disappointed.
Don't
No
it's
unicorn.
Okay. It's okay.
So I didn't get my prediction right, but I bet we have a lot of second graders that did. All right, so they would write either yes or no if they got it
Yes.
right. All right.
And then what actually did happen, it melted back into water at room temperature is what you would write here in this last section. So that kind of wraps up today's lesson, and we will see you back here on Thursday for our next lesson.